Hey everybody, what's going on? This is day 3 of a Zoomy game, Devlog, and made a fair bit of progress today. Didn't do iron games, didn't struggle fixing DJ's computer, so more time to dedicate to putting this thing together. So, let us open up Construct 3 and I'll show you where we are at. So a lot of this stuff looks pretty much the same visually, but there's a lot of stuff under the hood that have changed, a lot of new additions to both the placeholder enemy and Izumi herself to make them both work a little bit better. So if we go into the event sheet, we can see we have a way more events now. We're up to 69. Funny enough, I also have two groups. I have Izumi logic and basic enemy logic. So they both do a lot more now, and I kind of group them together to make it a little bit easier to manage all these events. So let's see. What have I done here? I didn't get to adding the teleportation, the dodge mechanic in, but I have added some more movement stuff, and I got the shurikens. So I designed the shuriken sprite, I did a little simple animation, I got all that working. So let's see right here, Z pressed, and then system, as long as there's less than 3 shurikens on the screen, because I figure once you throw 3, stop. And then I also have shuriken count is greater than 0, because in the final game, shurikens are going to be items you pick up, and you're going to have a limited amount. But right now, just for testing purposes, I've disabled this condition, so I've turned it off. So you have unlimited shurikens, you don't have to worry about picking anything up. So the way the shurikens work is that they just go in basically a straight line with a little bit of random direction. So you can see right now, based on whether you're facing left or facing right, they go in left or right directions with a 10-degree amount of random directions. So they won't all just be going straight. They'll go kind of up and down a little bit to give it more of like an organic thing, because it's not like you're firing a gun really in a straight line. You're just throwing shurikens from your hand. So I figured adding a little bit of randomness to the direction will make it look more organic, like it's something being actually thrown. As the game develops, I might tighten this from a 10-degree randomness to something smaller, or I might just disable it altogether if there's like a lot of precision that ends up being needed with these, because right now you can't really hit something precisely, obviously, because you don't know exactly where they're going to go. It looks cool, but I don't know if gameplay will have to supersede the visual aesthetic of this. Other things that was done, and I added a lot of enemy logic. So again, with the families, everything I've added here, every time I make a new enemy and I just give it the enemy type, it'll inherit all of these conditions, which is pretty cool. So I just have a simple Boolean going left or not, and that just sets to true or false. And when you are going left, the sprite moves left, and if you're not going left, the sprite moves right. And then I have these little yellow bars here. These are just invisible boundaries, and so when the sprite itself collides with these things, it just flips the Boolean. So instead of going left, it'll start going right. And that's kind of how, like, Goombas and Koopa Troopas move around in Mario. There's just these invisible barriers. I mean, I don't know if exactly how the code works, but essentially does the same thing. It'll just bounce back and forth between this preset area, between these two boundaries. And if you touch it, you'll take damage. I also gave it an instant variable of 3 HP, so it takes 3 hits to kill. And we also have very basic idle animation, a stun animation, and then a dead animation. So when it dies, it kind of pops, which we can see in action in just a second. So let's take a look at this. Let's pull up the game itself, which is right here. Okay. So, first I'll show you the shurikens. So if we move... Oh, another thing I added is, like, they're just little squares right now because they're placeholders, but I want to have a little bit of dust kick up as you start running to kind of give it a bit more dynamism. I think tomorrow I'll probably also add, like, a bigger thing of dust when you hit the ground, kind of sell the impact a little bit more, because right now there's no anticipation or follow-through on any of these things. So that might help sell that without ruining player feel. Alright, so first things... I got rid of the hitboxes. They're still there, but they're hidden now, so you can just see the actual animation, which is nice. And then if I hit Z, I can throw shurikens. Right now I can just throw as many as I want because there's no ammo or anything, but you can see they kind of all go in a relatively random direction, and they spin a little bit. I don't know if the frame rate on this capture is too low for it to tell, but yeah, it's cool. Got a little animation of her kind of just like throwing a star out, and I'll probably have like a counter up in the corner, you know, at some point that shows you how many shurikens you have left. Right now, I'm throwing way more than 3 because basically there's only 3. As soon as they hit this wall, they are destroyed, so I can just kind of keep going ad nauseum. If I kind of get up here and start throwing, you can see I stop for a second before they hit something, the wall over there probably, and get destroyed. So you can see the enemy is moving. He's got a dorky little animation. It looked way funnier than I intended it to, but he's kind of, you know, bombing around, doing his thing. Those 2 barriers aren't visible, but you can see he touches them and immediately flips back around. So if I want to hit him, I throw a shuriken at him. He does a little stun animation for a second before going back. And if I touch him, just like before, I take damage. There's a little bit of a window. And you can see he pops when you do enough damage and he dies. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Tomorrow is going to be probably making little smoke dust things for these animations, and then finally getting the teleportation and the dodge roll down. That's going to be interesting. I don't really know how I'm going to do that yet, but another thing I want to do is I want to like, ooh, you can see this, that was a little weird. Some of the movement isn't 100% yet, and that's actually what I was about to say. Like if I attack or I throw a ninja star, I don't stop, I just keep moving, and it looks weird. So I don't know exactly how to stop movement. I've tried to just use in an event sheet, like when I attack with either of these, to linearly interpolate or lerp, linear interpolation, down from my current speed down to 0, but it doesn't work. So I'm using linear interpolation correctly because I'm just picking it from a drop down. And yeah, I don't really know why it doesn't work, but I haven't gotten linear interpolation to work at all. Oh, another thing I did was also I fixed the hitbox here, so you can see I don't float in the air anymore. Like, even if there's just 1 pixel of foot on there, I will stay on there. And you could probably change that by making the collision shape a little bit narrower so you'd slide off. But I figure in a platformer, precision is more important than realistic physics. So I could probably add an animation, so like maybe kind of losing her balance, like a Sonic 2 thing, but it's a lot of extra code. I don't know if anybody cares. I don't know if I care. But that's where we're at right now. We're getting there, folks. We're fucking getting there. I'll probably add an item that lets you pick up shurikens as well tomorrow, so you can't just spam them infinitely. I'd like to have a better way of controlling these. Spamming them like this is nice. I'd like to be able to like throw them a little bit slower. There's probably a way to control it, but I'm not exactly sure how yet. So there'll be more experimentation to make that work. But for a couple hours of work today, I'm kind of happy with where we're at right now. We got close combat, we got jumping, we got movement, we got long range combat. All this stuff works. So yeah, we're going at a pretty decent clip. 3 days of work, you know, probably about 10-15 hours total. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. So yeah, tomorrow, dodge. Once the dodge is done, the big main mechanics of the game will be implemented for player control. And very simple enemy AI right now. To call it AI is an insult to AI. It's just like a condition, really. But yeah, everything's going all right. Everything's going pretty good so far. I don't have a lot to complain about. I feel the only thing I don't like about this animation is that you can't really tell her arm is moving. I think maybe the first frame should be there for more than 1 frame, so you can tell that her arm is actually going back behind her head and then flicking back forward. So I'll play around with that too. I want it to be a really snappy animation, so like you can snap back to the starting pose. When you throw a bunch, it doesn't look too ridiculous. So yeah, that'll need some touching up as well. But you know, the system works, and that's the important part. So yeah, feel free to let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, or any suggestions are great too. But that's all I got for now. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow with day 4.